Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am here with little Claudio and we're going to talk about minimalism. But before I proceed, I just want to give credit where credit is due. My good friend Emily at Reborn, or Reborns with an X in the middle, had a discussion this past weekend about minimalism. And I'm going to go ahead and link her original video here in the cards. So if you open that up, you'll be able to find her discussion. And I'm going to expand on it a little bit. So basically, my question here today, or what I'm going to be discussing and musing over, is can the Reborn doll hobby, collecting hobby, really be about minimalism? In a way, collecting and minimalism are pretty much a contradiction. So then I ask you guys also, as we think about minimalism and the different types of minimalism, because there are a lot of different types of minimalism. But what is minimalism in a nutshell? What is it exactly? And to just describe it in just two words, it basically is just the idea of owning less. It's reducing our possessions. So this video is not to cast any judgment on how many dolls we have, how many hauls we have on our channels as content creators, or, you know, cast any judgment on anybody in the Reborn doll hobby. But I do have to say that most of the things I'm going to talk about are pretty much of my own reflection, the things that I've been reflecting on myself as far as how I'm involved in the hobby and how I carry out my hobby. For starters, I think about the fact that I'm a YouTube content creator. I have a Reborn doll channel where I feature 6 to 7, sometimes 10 different dolls on my channel. I rotate them out, so that for one right there lets you know that I have a collection and I have a lot of dolls. And by a lot, I mean that could be subjective, but for me, it feels like a lot. But I also started thinking about how much my YouTube channel influences how many dolls I have, how much shopping I do, because I feel that there's this need for me to remain relevant and to keep things fresh and up to date on my channel. I am rotating outfits, rotating dolls, and in order for me to remain intriguing, or to not bore the spectator with, you know, the same thing over and over again. This is for me though, this is speaking as what I think. I feel that my hobby is definitely influenced by the fact that I have a YouTube channel. So not a lot of you that are watching this are content creators, are going to have your own channel. So maybe you don't have that added pressure, but you can definitely relate to the shopping. It also made me think about the fact that, you know, there's two separate hobbies going on here. On one hand, we have the dolls. There is a continuous amount of new kits coming out, new painters coming out, and we want them. We see them, we want them, we fall in love with the face, and we want them. And so you begin for myself, I begin a process of elimination. Like, okay, I'm really going to have to weigh it, you know, break it down to pros and cons so that I'm not overwhelmed by my collection. As it stands right now, I do feel a little bit teensy-binsy with overwhelmed, but that's not to say that there isn't that any of the dolls that I actually have right now, currently, I don't want to have. I made a hard choice last week to sell a new doll that I recently got, but I made those choices because there's new dolls coming in. And like I said before, I feel like a lot of that is influenced by the fact that I'm a content creator. But I don't feel overwhelmed in that sense or overly dictated by that, because I'm aware of it. I feel like I'm managing it better. And being aware of it is the most important part of coping and managing what you're doing. So my collection is very much managed, and I'm mindfully aware of how my collection is growing. What do I need to do to be as reductionist as possible, or as minimalist as possible? But the second thing about this hobby that is totally separate is that you're actually partaking in two hobbies here. On one hand, we have the dolls, but on the other hand, we have everything that we buy for the dolls. The boppy pillows, the baby nests, which I have multiple baby nests, brushes, which I love and I collect, booties, little rattles. So all of these accessories and the clothing, okay? So all of these accessories, again, you start to move further and further away of the pure meaning of minimalism, which is owning less, having less possessions. So you want to try minimalism, you like the idea of it, and maybe you're like me. The reason you like the idea of it is because what's appealing about it is not the fact that this is going to be a way to, have a good, control over your finances. You're not doing it for ecological or environmental reasons. You're not even doing it for the aesthetic reasons, like, minimalism as a style only, like I do on my channel when I present my content. So you're not doing it for financial reasons. You're not doing it to save the environment, ecological reasons, and you're not doing it for aesthetic reasons. But you want to do it as a way to practice mindful minimalism. And how do you practice mindful minimalism? And why would we want to do that? It's because it brings us inner peace. The last thing I want is for my hobby to overwhelm me and for me to get swallowed up into this abyss of clutter and things and possessions. I don't know if you guys ever heard this. It's in that movie, The Fight Club. But that Brad Pitt's character, I believe it was, is the things you own end up owning you. I always found that quote really interesting because our possessions do start to overwhelm us, and it almost feels like we're owned by them and they're not owned by us. So you want peace in everything that you do, and that includes the doll hobby. You enjoy it so much. You love to look at how peaceful these imitations of human babies look. So you want to continue that theme in your hobby. And how are you going to do that? So this is things that work for me. They're not all going to work for you simultaneously. You may not be able to do them all. I'm not able to do them all at the same time, but I try. So these are things, this is an opportunity for you to try minimalism in a more simplified way without overwhelming yourself, because minimalism in itself also comes along with a lot of guilt. Some of us want to do it because of guilt, and then we end up going to the extreme where at one point we were very materialistic, then we go to the opposite. We try to be as materialistic as possible. So we go all the way to minimalism, but then we find ourselves overwhelmed there too, thinking, putting a lot of unnecessary guilt on ourselves. So we want to do this as peacefully as possible. So what are some things that we can do? Okay, one of the things I do, and these are probably good examples, and I brought these booties on purpose. I just got these from an Etsy shop. They were pretty expensive, but because I'm presenting and I'm trying to, for what it's worth, and I think all content creators do this, we as content creators, we deliberately cultivate an image for our channel. And part of that for me is keeping things as peaceful and as non-chaotic as I possibly can, not just with what you hear or what you're listening to, but also with what I'm presenting visually on my channel. So I really enjoy minimalism as a style, I'm just going to speak of it as a style for this moment. And I look for pieces that are minimalist. This would be a minimalist piece. And now I bought this from an Etsy shop and it was pretty expensive, but I realized in practicing investing your money in good pieces that are made out of good quality, and they're timeless and traditional pieces, you know, or items or pieces of clothing or shoes. These are timeless and traditional. I'm going to be able to use these for forever. They don't go out of style. And you're investing a good amount, then, and they're multi-purpose. They're going to go with a lot of outfits. So investing in good and quality pieces is important. Also, the owner of the shop uses organic fabrics. So this is in some way my part to thank that shop owner for being environmentally conscious for me, and I want to support those efforts. So I'm going to buy local. I'm going to buy mom and pop. And that's one way to be minimalist. Another way that I do, that I'm trying to do, I'm not so sure if this one's the easier one, but just committing to just buying one piece of clothing a month. So you have multiple dolls, and you're just going to pick one doll for that month, and that doll is going to get the most spectacular outfit you can find. If you're going to try to stick to that, that's probably the harder one. But I'm definitely going to try that. One clothing per month, per doll a month. I also have, another way to do this is I also have an Etsy shop, not an Etsy shop, an Instagram store, and I've been recently purging of a lot of items. I have a lot of clothes, so I also decided that I'm going to buy one, get rid of two. So if I buy something kind of pricey, and I feel like it's a versatile piece, like these slippers, these little shoes, I'm going to then purge two things. I'm going to look at the things that I have and just commit and accept that I can release those two other possessions just to have the one. So it's a balance. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do, but again, you want peace and not chaos, and only do it if you can do it easily and you're content with doing it. I know sometimes it feels a little bit hard, but I've also found when there were certain things I didn't want to get rid of, after they finally sold and I shipped them off, I was actually really happy. And then it was even, I was even happier when the person who received it was so grateful and happy to have it and would tag me in the item. You know, they take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, tag me in it. And then I was even happier because I was like, yeah, you know what? It was sitting around in my possession in a bin, not being enjoyed, and now somebody's enjoying it. So buy one, get rid of two. Try to commit to that. See how that works for you. You might be surprised. The other thing is take your time when you're going to buy something. We live in this age of compulsory consumption, and it's not really necessarily all our fault. There are advertisers and corporations that are working really hard, spending billions and billions of dollars trying to figure out how the consumer is going to be conned into putting down their money to buying and shopping. How do they keep that wheel of the consumerism just going and going? And a lot of the times they try gimmicks. I mean, even Etsy will do this. They'll notify you when there's a scarcity. On my Etsy shop, I tend to look at it, and then I'll see an item that I want, and it'll tell me there's only one left of this. So then I'm like, oh, I better get it, because if I don't, I'm going to regret it, and I got to buy it now. So they create this environment where you're making decisions based on scarcity and fear, and that's not good for you, and it's not good for anyone. So take a step back from it. Look around, put things in your shopping cart, put things in your favorites, come back to it. Just take your time to buy it. Don't buy on impulse. I know it's hard, but try it and see how you feel about it afterwards. If it's gone and you didn't get a chance to buy it because somebody else bought it and you missed out on the item, just learn to accept that happened, and you're going to be okay. They're survivable things. It's first world problems. It's a survivable thing, and they're not necessities. So, and then trust me, there's been things that I've passed by, and I'll have like a millisecond of like, oh dang, I should have gotten that. But then I get over it and I move on to the next best thing, and then sometimes I find something better. So taking your time is definitely a practice in mindful minimalism. Shopping conscientiously. I know I kind of already mentioned this, but I always feel good when I can buy local. And that's what shopping conscientiously means. You buy local, you know who you're shopping from. Same thing with Etsy. And this needs to be mentioned, but it's the same thing goes with thrifting. Thrifting is definitely it's the repurpose market, it's the recyclable market. And not only can you shop from thrifts, but you can also donate. And I know that a lot of people already do that. So you're already halfway there. That is something that you can definitely manage and you feel comfortable doing it. So I feel like I cannot just talk about ways, to practice minimalism without mentioning or talking about privilege. And what I mean by privilege is the majority of us have food in our fridges every day, in our tummies. We have a bed to sleep in. We have family. We have, warm water. We have our lights on. So we have all of our basic needs are being met. And privilege doesn't necessarily only just mean how much you make, but it also means the conditions that you're living in and if your basic needs are being met. So we all kind of in a way do come from a place of privilege. And I do feel that this trend of minimalism sometimes forgets that minimalism being a trend is sort of an escapism for people that have privilege. They can try things out, but they have the luxury to return to their old habits if they feel like it and they're not liking minimalism. And the reason I feel like I need to talk about minimalism and bring up privilege is because of the fact that there's a lot of guilt involved in this. It's not just guilt of materialism, but we can't guilt people that don't have their, that are living on very, fixed budgets, and guilt them for not trying out minimalism if they don't want to. So that's just something I had to mention. And just to explain a little bit of my own privilege, I don't really like to talk too much about my personal life on here because people do tend to exploit the things that you share here, and it's happened to me in the past, so I kind of stay away from talking about personal stuff. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I was separated or divorced like about 6 years ago. I had spent 14 years in a very abusive marriage, one that I was always fearful of leaving, for many reasons, but one of the reasons was the fear of financial disempowerment. It was just really scary for me to think about being financially disempowered. But alas, I did what I needed to do for me and my children, and for my own well-being and safety. And everything that I was afraid was going to happen actually happened. But I survived it. I was really unhappy. All the financial disempowerment and the things that I thought would happen financially. Losing my home, just lots of things. Anything you can think about, when the loss of money or income and the financial hardship, all those things. So there came a point where even buying paper towels became a luxury for me. And I was like, no, we're going to be doing everything minimalist here. We're going to be doing everything, repurposing everything and recycling everything. I'm going to buy towels and wash them instead of buying paper towels. So that's why I feel like, you know, sometimes the trends like minimalism really they're just trends, and nobody should feel guilty into trying them out or not trying them out. And when I speak about, you know, paper towels being a luxury, they really were. I really had to economize, and I really had to penny pinch and think about what, you know, out of necessity and not out of trend, I became a minimalist. So I thought it was worth mentioning, because we can't talk about anti-materialism and just expect everybody to go to the extreme, the opposite extreme of, you know, of materialism and practice minimalism. And if they can't do it, or they have more pressing, you know, these are first world issues here, but they have more pressing matters to think about instead of, you know, how am I going to be minimalist? I felt like I couldn't talk about minimalism without addressing privilege and the trend. So I hope you guys understand that. And so I really want to know what you guys think. Did any of these steps or ideas resonate with you? Did they strike a chord? Is there anything that you're already doing that you actually enjoy doing it? What's your minimalism? All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and turn on your notifications. That way, every time you pop back on YouTube, you'll have a notification that I've uploaded another video, and you won't forget to watch. So thanks for hanging out with me this little bit, and I look forward to reading what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching.